My name's Sam. I work for Red Hat in the UK. I'm a solution architect, and I've been welcomed along to present here with DXE about this topic. Do you want to introduce yourselves?
Yes, Steve Money. I'm an enterprise architect and chief architect for the platform services based on container technologies at DXE Technology.
And Peter Schofield, worldwide director for application transformation. And I've been working with Red Hat on cloud applications since 2011. Been working very closely with Sam on some of the key clients in the UK.
One announcement. I think there's there's a pretty high chance. So there's a $100 Amazon gift card giveaway in this session. So stay to the end because the chances of you winning is pretty high. Okay, so it's worth staying to the end. Awesome. Are you guys going to stay, or you want to?
I'll probably just sit down.
Yeah, cool. Okay, great. So the way we're going to split it 3 ways. So I'm going to just talk a bit about apps migration and some of the tooling that Red Hat has, and then the guys from DXE are going to cover off the DXE specific bits, right? So what does the problem look like? The problem looks like the pace of IT delivery is going ever faster, right? We saw that in the keynotes today with children as young as 11 changing the world, okay? And as things speed up, the stuff gets left behind really easily. People are really trying to innovate and stay at the forefront of technology, and the legacy systems and the legacy applications, they get left behind, and they sit there and they can rot away, and they can be really problematic because the skills in the teams, they move off or they go to new areas, and you just are unable to maintain that legacy estate. And what that does is it slows down the innovation because you end up having to take away from that team or that set of people that are working on the new and innovative stuff, and you're retasking them on fixing the old stuff. And that really slows down your service delivery. And it also reduces the quality, right? Because the people are looking at multiple things. I don't know if anybody's tried to debug an application that they wrote 6 months ago, but it's basically impossible. No, it really is. And it can really cause an instability in your organization and in the platform, right? So what I'm talking about really is about modernizing and migrating that existing set of tools and applications onto a consistent platform that's designed for both new technology and old technology, and that's OpenShift, right? And that's kind of what we're looking at here. OpenShift is designed to run across all of your footprints, right? So it can run in your data center, it can run on bare metal, it can run on virtualization technology, and it can run in the public cloud. And it gives you that consistent deployment footprint to move your existing applications onto, and also write new things right next to them, right? And you can do those things side by side. And that means that you're not taking teams that are looking on new stuff and repurposing them to look after old stuff. It's all the stuff. Everything is the same, and it's running on this kind of consistent platform. So how would we do that? So Red Hat open sourced, as you would expect, a piece of technology called the Red Hat Application Migration Toolkit. You might have heard about this during this week, and there's been actually some announcements about some new features that have been added to this toolkit in other sessions during the week. This tool used to be called Windup, and it was built by a set of consultants in Red Hat Consulting to help customers migrate their applications from legacy or proprietary J2EE servers onto a modern J2EE server like JBoss EAP. And it's really a set of tools that kind of help you do that, and it will do things like check for cloud readiness and kind of detect things that are in your application that will stop you from moving that application onto a more modern platform running on OpenShift. And I'm going to kind of talk a bit about what that looks like. So there's 3 ways to run the Red Hat Application Migration Toolkit. What we're looking at here is the UI-based. It follows a consistent UI layout like most of our tools. This looks a lot like OpenShift, if you've not seen OpenShift before. You can run it as a command line tool, so you can integrate it into CI and CD pipelines. And I've forgotten what the third one is, so let's not talk about that. Actually, I'll just check. It's command line, and the Eclipse plugin. So we have some developer tooling that you can plug into your Eclipse editors to help you change pieces of code to match kind of the EAP configuration. So what you can see here is the kind of overview of the web console. So you can create projects, and you can map those to applications, and then you can start to add many applications to this web portal. And the reason you might do that is if you're looking at a large estate of J2EE applications that you want to migrate, this gives you like a central location that you can catalog all the applications and the results of the scans that and the analysis of those applications. And this is kind of what that looks like. So we'll analyze it, and we'll look for things like proprietary libraries that you can't use in EAP. We'll look at things like hard-coded URLs. There's lots of examples, but I'm just calling out a few specific ones, like hard-coded URLs. So if you move that application, that would then break when you put it into the new location. And it provides you this dashboard that kind of gives you an idea of what the migration work would look like. And you can start to compare this dashboard with other applications that you've analyzed. When you do the analysis, you can then dive right into that, and you can see here some specific examples where we could suggest for you how to make the change. So in this example, you're using a proprietary logging library, and we suggest you move to a kind of an open logging library that would work in an open J2EE server. And you can start to dive even further into that, and it starts to tell you exactly where that is in the source code, and gives you some more details about that. There are certain things that we can do really well, so this is a perfect example of that. There's certain things that's a bit more difficult, things like messaging technologies where you have to make some decisions, so we'll flag those as things that you need to look at and do some more research in. And finally, this is what the Eclipse tooling looks like. So if you install it into your Eclipse editor, as you're looking at the source code files, you can see its suggestions being made as you're then looking at the code and how to make that ready for modernization, right, or migration into EAP. And what that really means is if you look at this by itself, it doesn't really mean that much. But if you look at it, if you have existing applications running on high-cost proprietary Unix platforms, on high-cost web application servers, that can be really tedious to look after, but also really expensive. So if you combine the move from Unix to Linux and also the migration from a proprietary app server to an open source app server, you can go all the way from Unix to running in a container on OpenShift, right? And that's where you kind of start to unlock the benefits of this kind of migration work, because what that gives you is that consistent platform that I talked about at the very beginning. So you can get the application migration toolkit for free. It's open source. You go to developers.redhat.com, and there's all sorts of material there to get you started. And now I'm going to hand over to Steve, who's going to talk about the Red Hat, the DXC OpenShift platform and what that looks like. You want to come up, Steve? Oh, that way. Great. Thank you.
Thanks, Cheers. Yeah, so thank you. Thanks for having me here. What Sam just talked about really resonates very well with DXC and what we're all about in terms of digital transformation, helping our customers in their digital journeys, having to deal with the hybrid nature of things where there are certain workloads that just cannot be moved so easily. How do you operate and manage those within the context of some of the moving as fast as you can to be able to cloud enable and really digitally enable other applications to be able to get to the different sorts of channels that get opened up for different sorts of business concerns. So to that end, we have a couple things that we'll talk about here. This segment will be based in two parts. We'll talk a bit about and just a very high-level architectural overview of the managed container Paas powered by OpenShift offering that DXC are just launching, and how we partnered with Red Hat to create this managed platform capability. And also then go and double-click a little bit and see what we're doing in the space of apps migration and transformation technologies that sort of complement what Sam talked about and some of the capabilities that DXC have brought about that really extend over some 4 decades of experience. But now we're applying that into the containerization world as well, and Peter will talk about that. Okay, so very quickly, I think, Sam, you already talked about this, right? So what's moving people to embrace the container technologies and the new orchestration engines that just enable speed to market, reducing costs, optimizing their environments, getting better leverage out of their capital investments and other utility-based compute and so on, and really just energizing the ability for our customers and the business to move forward in sort of a mode 2 style, right, of IT, where we're really enabling our business partners to take on more responsibility, accountability, and enablement of digitally enabling their piece of the business. Within the context, then, of some consistent frameworks that underlie all that to keep the overall enterprise cost down from an overall operational perspective. So to that end, DXC have developed 2 new offerings, and we'll talk about one at a time, as I said. The bit in blue, right, really talks about a managed capability that we're introducing around Red Hat's OpenShift Container Platform. All right. So we deploy basically we stick to the standard reference architectures, right, as much as we can, actually pretty much religiously, to deploy OpenShift in Red Hat's best practice manners. Okay. What we add to that, though, is to encapsulate away from the end user of the platform any need to have to do any kind of management around it. So that would be the patching, the maintenance, the management, the backup recovery, those sorts of lifecycle events, and continuity of keeping that platform as up to date as possible without having developers have to, and our customers have to worry about those particular concerns. So for that, we instantiate the platform, again, in a Red Hat specified way, and then we enable scaling of that to add capacity to it after it's been provisioned, both in terms of application nodes, which is where you get your compute, and storage as well. All right. Again, birds, backup recovery. We handle all the incident handling and those sorts of things, platform monitoring, right? SLAs, service level agreements, and so on. Patching, updating, ticketing, eventing, resolution, those sorts of things. We handle all of that. Okay. And then we do that in our managed infrastructure environments as well. So we have our own data centers where we can host these, and that's what we do in many cases for our customers. But we also have public cloud environments where we have managed services around that as well. And we can extend this offering into those spaces as well in a very cohesive way and get that end to end. We take on the full and support that from a security perspective, making sure it's network secured, all that sort of thing. All right. Okay, so I'll just say a couple points on this, and then we'll come back and double click on that when Peter talks about his bit, right? So in terms of our how we go about doing this, we're very, very keen on the notion of partnering with our strategic partners and solution partners. Right? Red Hat is one of those. I believe we've taken this partnership to the next level, in a sense, in terms of where we've come from a collaboration perspective, where we're not just consuming Red Hat technologies, consuming their services, there's subject matter expertise, things like that, but we're actually contributing back to the upstream open source community as well, as we identify some things that need to be hardened from an enterprise-grade perspective. We want to push that back into the products so that everybody can benefit from that in future versions. And we've seen some examples of that really running through that process quite well so far. We've been channeling those sorts of improvements through our Red Hat partnership, right, to get some acceleration as they have very, very close ties with the developer communities, and we can be more effective working that way. So that's very, very important to us. I think it's win-win all around, and overall, we hope that the open source community can benefit from that, and the whole ecosystem can benefit beyond just DXCs and our direct customers overall as well. And we end up with stronger products as we go forward to take in the experience and expertise that we can bring to the table from our industry knowledge and experience. We have a long history within DXC of applying factory pattern techniques to maintaining and migrating and improving our different technologies and software for our customers. This goes all the way back to the Y2K sorts of things. Remember that whole issue where we had the big timestamp things? And there are a number of technologies that were actually developed and disciplines and techniques that we bring to the table as we look at applying digital transformation and automation capabilities and factory patterns that apply well to the containerization world as well. And so we're bringing those to bear in some of the new application containerization as a service type capabilities that we're launching. We have very mature assessment frameworks, so we can take a look at workloads, legacy workloads, and identify what is suitable for packaging up as containers, how to introspect those workloads, determine, again, the feasibility of it, is it, the statefulness of it, some of the networking requirements, all sorts of things, dependencies, and then make some recommendations as to where are the low-hanging fruits that we can apply and bring those into the organization. At the same time, we also have capabilities to be able to develop brand new, spanking new. So there's the new development, and then there's the migration and transformation type of services to get that end to end, and now making that relevant to OpenShift and other containerization architectures, microservices, that sort of thing. DXC is an independent system integration company where we don't have any of our own commercial products per se, as we did before we were part of Packard and so on. And so what we aim to do is bring in the right partners, the right technologies that fit for our customers in a much more independent way. And Red Hat and the open source technologies that we're bringing in here, we find to be very applicable and desired by our customers to bring into their portfolios. So we're happy about that. Okay, so here's just a quick slide about our managed container paths powered by Red Hat OpenShift offering, right? So very quickly here, you can see we've got a fully managed container platform. Again, jointly developed with Red Hat, where we've had their subject matter experts. Some of the people actually here in the audience, so thank you for joining us there. Where we're looking at best practice implementations of this, and then tying that into our service management capabilities. I covered some of these already. We had an architecture for high availability, so we get a 99.9% guaranteed availability of the platform itself. And we're bringing in some of the latest Red Hat technologies there. Our goal is to stay current all the time. That's one reason why we make choices about sticking to our the Red Hat's standard reference architectures, so that we can consume the automations that are coming from the open source community and from Red Hat directly, right, as much as possible, and then augment that with other automations that we might need for a certain configuration, and where possible contribute our pieces back into the community, so in future versions of the product can actually have some of those capabilities kept up to date for us, so we don't have to worry about that, and again, it benefits the broader community. We want to focus more on a higher level value propositions and not sort of keep to ourselves some of the other things that we might think we're doing for a particular version. Get that back into the community so that those ideas can survive more easily with future versions of the product. Okay. One thing I will mention here is our goal is then to provide a managed platform, right? So that would be OpenShift, but we manage. So we have to lock down to a certain extent. We offer it as a service, but we want to make it as self-service as possible to our developers, so they can do whatever they need to do, right? And Cluster FS is a software-defined storage virtualization capability that Red Hat had that we do our OpenShift deployments to provide container-native storage. So this makes it really easy to carve out persistent volumes and persistent volume claims against various projects we want to deploy into the OpenShift environment in a very self-service manner, as opposed to the traditional style of doing things where you have to talk to some storage people on the back end, create those storage volumes, attach them the standard Linux way, and so on, and test them out how you can do it, and then you capture the volumes at that point. So again, this gives us a way to be able to provision out large amounts of storage and make that readily available as container-native storage to the platform itself, and just get out of people's way. So we're very excited about that, and pleased to see that. We're using Ansible and also Satellite 6, so that's the latest versions of Red Hat Satellite, which provides some support for actually being able to manage image repositories and things like that. So we want to consume Red Hat content directly from Red Hat's network, both in terms of the RPMs, as well as the images, the vetted hardware, and that sort of thing, and then provide those through satellite into our deployed environment and maintain it that way. Satellite 6 provides ways to be able to do CI/CD, continuous integration, continuous deploy, sorts of things to manage the versions, so that we can do fairly tight configuration management around our deployments as we deploy these client-dedicated environments and manage them. So it gives us scalability by doing that. In the end, we end up with very enterprise-grade service delivery capabilities that fit well into these other managed capabilities. So we handle not just the hybrid infrastructure environments, but the hybrid platform concerns as we're operating this seamlessly within our CloudOps capabilities. Okay. Just one slide here. You'll see down the middle column there the OCP, OpenShift Container Platform cluster roles. So those are the standard roles that are defined within OpenShift itself. What we do is we externalize the user identity management into Active Directories or some other LDAP Active Directory structure, and we define the groups within there. And you can see we're combining a few of those to get a fewer set of standard roles that we expose so that the customer can do self-assignment of their own users in their Active Directory or whatever to those roles, and they map into the group. So again, we get out of the way of having to provision users into the system, but we have a way of being able to manage very carefully what the role mappings are so that we get the lockdowns that we need. One example you see is the custom edit there, right, where we took away the entitlement or the permissions for a developer to be able to RSH into the containers themselves. And that's really to stick to some of our tight security constraints and so on, as one reason for doing that. And that actually came out of the best practice from the Red Hat OpenShift dedicated team. So they were giving us some guidance on what they're doing to lock down their environments. And that's just another splendid example of how we've been able to collaborate to get a best-in-class implementation on the platform. Very good. So, just a quick view on how we're set up to do our CloudOps. So, just as we do software development in much of a DevOps style, where you bring in concerns of your operations, right up front with your development, right? You get your CI/CD pipelines defined, you've got automated regression testing, all sorts of things like that. We've actually built the automations around the platform support completely in that mode. So we brought in our CloudOps team to understand what their operational concerns are. They can build their own automations to check the status of things like that. We collaborate very closely that way. They can contribute back to the engineered artifacts, and then of course the engineering team going to those. And this is a standard practice that actually DXC is starting to apply to all of our different infrastructure service environments, and how we're actually tying into sort of more of a go-to style type of software development. So it ties in again to handle the hybrid nature of things across disparate infrastructure environments, right, heterogeneous ones, but tying into the same operational model. That brings our cost way down. It simplifies things. And OpenShift fits beautifully in that because it gives, again, a very consistent operating environment for running all sorts of different types of workloads, whether they be stateful or stateless, whatever we go. So a lot of flexibility there, but consistency as well. And that drives operational performance improvements for us. And this slide here, again, just shows some of the diversity of what we've got, right? So we've got various layers, as defined by NIST, which is starting to blur now. So we've got the infrastructure layer, the platform layer, right? The SaaS layer, the software as a service, and different sorts of things. Now, you might ask, well, why are some of these things showing as SaaS? Well, it's apps / right? So it's still in a traditional way, in more of a mutable infrastructure deployment style. You can see workflows running in various ways. Within the OpenShift platform, it's a bit more consistent way of doing it, and again, within the infrastructure environment. We abstract away the interface and the user experience from the developer, from the admin perspective, to make that as native of looking OpenShift as it should be. And then again, from the back end, from a CloudOps perspective, we've got very consistent mechanisms to do the monitoring, the alerting, and that sort of thing across these different environments. So again, this last slide here, this is actually one from one of the Red Hat reference architecture slides. But the key here that I really just want to say is, again, from a usage perspective, it just is like you can do whatever you need to do, right? You interact with it through consoles, the command line interface, the IDEs, right, that you might want to connect to, and your APIs. It looks exactly the same. From a developer administrator perspective, what we're doing, all this other stuff that we're doing from an overall service management perspective is happening behind the scenes. It's all automated, and it's very much event-driven. So we just really need to be alerted on observable events that need to be attended to. We don't need to be checking on dashboards, things like that all the time. Okay, so that's how it moves to that. And I think that's my last slide here, but in a way it's a bit of a segue into what Pete's going to talk about, right, with the application containerization as a service capabilities then that we layer or layer on top of that, right? So again, interacting through those mechanisms as though it's just an extension of the platform.
Thanks, Steve. And thanks to Sam for the introduction. So you really see there how we've taken the speed and power of the Red Hat OpenShift platform to the next sort of stage in terms of the enterprise grade mil-spec security for our very largest government and private sector private sector clients. So I'm now just going to talk about the application transformation. Yep. And really look at that need for speed. We saw in the keynote yesterday that what you can do with the very latest cloud applications that are ready in OpenShift and can be scaled across the world. What we see, our largest clients got 6,000 clients, up to 3,000, 5,000 applications in each client's portfolio. Most of them are not ready for this type of world, but that's where the heart and soul of our client's business actually reside in those systems, but really, really important for our clients. So what we've been doing is building out this industrial scale, industrial sort of speed capability. I started in the manufacturing industry probably 35 years ago in IT. Recently, 2012, after working with Red Hat for a year, started to see my son using the power of open source technologies, hardware and software, to build telemetry systems for his kayak, his racing kayak. That made the 300th of a second difference where he got a silver, I'm delighted to say, at the Rio Olympics. So that power of that open source technology, that need for speed, and then that's how do you take that and industrialize it and really scale to deliver the business value. So people have talked about cost for a long time. Actually, speed, being able to deliver 75% faster in minutes, not months, and the ability now to reach out to citizens and customers and really grow revenues. From the work we did, we saw $4 revenue gain for every dollar saved. So think about that through the speed, the power of these technologies. That comes through automation, which we'll talk about. Speed, an industrialized approach, building up the capabilities, very much a capability model, and a lean model. Think about Lean Six Sigma, continuous service improvement, Kanban. And then that quality and predictability by reuse, taking those best practices, learning, and actually reusing them, and then measuring them, seeing what is really good, what is really working, and where to go to next. And then people need people, people work with people, actually working with the right mix of people with the customer and actually around the world. And it really is around the world these days. So it's a good thing is going around and seeing people we've been working with for a very long time on lots of this. So how do we do it? Recognise that one size does not fit all, that you've got all of the applications built by whole piles of people, lots of imagination. So we've boiled it down to 18 industrialized treatment lines, which is a way of bringing together the sort of expertise that are needed to take those applications and move them to where they need to be, to the speed that they need to be, or to actually retire them. So turning the stuff off that you don't need is key, that need for simplicity. On the right-hand side, you see there that portability, the portability that OpenShift brings, the portability that DXC have been designing into the digital agenda to make sure that workloads can work across public, private, on-premises, and make sure that that need is there for all of those vital workloads. Underneath it, we'll come back to it, a factory fabric, API enabling the different processes, so you can plug in the armory of tools that you need into a process and reusing the templates that Steve talked about earlier and those blueprints, so you do get that best practice. So that's the sort of the industrial side of it. And up front, taking the Red Hat modernization toolkit and other tools, we've got an advisory studio, modernization studio, that brings together that view of customers' estates, a view of what needs to be done, how to manage that, and how to build up the value trains and then the sprints and the delivery waves to be able to take those applications, sentence them, and then actually move them forward. We seem to have lost, I can see it on here but not on there. But you can see the important bit in the middle, which is the process that we use. So you've got the inputs from all of the different technologies around the world, everything that clients have used in the last 40 or 50 years, right from the very, very old. We can actually take mainframe code and move it to DevOps on AWS with some of our partners, right the way through to modern applications. We take them through that assessment tool, then take that process into Jira. What we find, certainly with Java, Unix to Linux, which Sam was talking about, is that a mix of using automated tools to understand the issues, followed by actually the power of the people to understand how to fix those, take them into Jira workflow, then take them through, then apply the necessary tools, then take those into container images, rebuild them as necessary, and then deploy them. Something we use across all our platforms is Terraform to make sure we've got that portability built in. And then last but by no means least, that metrics and continuous improvement. And you see on the right-hand side there that we have an armory of tools, and it's actually deploying the right tool for the right customer. Here, I talked about the fabric. Then what you see is that whole logic of having a pluggable integration framework, having a set of APIs that you can use to glue it together. So you've got the modernization studio I mentioned on the left-hand side. So you get that visualization, the understanding of the client's estate, the complexities that are hidden in there, pulling them out, the complexities of the code. And then you look at that process on the top, and at the bottom, the knowledge. So the knowledge of the blueprints, what are the different blueprints that you need for the likes of Ansible, what do you need for the likes of some of the Micro Focus tool sets, what do you need for some of the other blueprints, a whole range of templates, and then the process repository and the factory database, which are the treatments that go against that. So what we've been doing since DXC was created was bottling the best practice from the contributing companies to really drive a factory fabric approach. So we truly can deliver, one size, remember, doesn't fit all, across multiple landing zones from anything. We're talking mainly here about the Java world. We can do precisely the same in the Microsoft.NET world. Then how do we take it forward? You've got here the Red Hat OpenShift platform and an architecture here. You're seeing what we're using for our product engineering in AWS, and that we scale out either directly or using the containerization managed service. So very much we can work with the clients and use the client's OpenShift platform, clients' other platforms, or use our own. So very much we fit in with what it is that the clients actually need. Then so the technology is well covered. We've got a lot of technologies. We're a technology company, and we're used to using the best technologies from around the world. What's really, really important in the transformations, we talk about 3,000 applications. Think of if with 3,000 applications, you have to wait for an hour or two for every step of the process. That's a lot of time. So we measure the wait times. So really measuring, these measurements are really important. So large clients around the world, that getting the cycle time up, I mentioned Lean Six Sigma, continuous service improvement, Kanban, everything that we can do using automation and reuse to drive that process up. Best in class, you can do a large number of applications, 300 plus, in something like 3 months with quite a small team. And then you can scale that. But what it is start small and scale and get that speed built into the process. And then the quality, making absolutely sure that you've got the capabilities and the expertise to make sure that you're delivering really, really high quality. And that's something that I'm working with my partner in crime, Renga Kishoriengan, in Bangalore. The team are really, really good at that. You're bringing together best practice advisory, best practice expertise around the world to deliver that quality, and then take out the cost. Then using that reuse, that automation starts to deliver the cost savings that we all need, because actually we need the people, we need that knowledge to be able to do more, deliver more value to our customers. And that metric framework is something, we have a set of standards, but we then define that and that reuse with our clients. Some of the best clients, from my perspective, are where we've got business outcomes. We measure against business outcomes. And those tend to be some of our very best, most interesting clients, most successful. So I just thought here, very much looking at Unix to Linux, this is one of the 18 treatments. And if you want to see the actual factory fabric, a demo downstairs, then come to the DXC booth, and you'll actually be able to run through how the tools that Sam and Steve talked about have actually been used to deliver that output. We were talking really about taking any source, then refactoring, understanding where the issues are, taking out those issues, and then driving to a target. So you're not doing sort of anything to anything. You've got very defined targets. We work with the clients to make sure that we're driving to the future state that that client needs. And every client will be slightly different, but most of those clients will be using very standard components. So bringing the best practice that we've got, Red Hat have got, other partners, depending on the requirements, then driving to that future in different varieties of cloud and on premises, then being able to really integrate, provide the business application integration services, the gateway services, to ensure that that business isn't interrupted, because it's not just during the transition. All businesses at all times are in some form of transition these days. So it's being able to do that. So this is one example of really being able to go from different OSs right the way through to, as Sam and I did and demonstrated very quickly, be able to take a tired old Solaris application and switch it through to running in relatively short time in a container on OpenShift. It was really quite cool. How do we do this? We've got a number of ways. I mentioned about define the future is key, but really we suggest starting with a rapid kick-off workshop one day. The days of long multi-year assessments are gone. I would say it's down to focus and understand the target, then analyze the gaps, analyze the code, and we've seen some of the tools that then actually start. So a quick start, take a couple of applications as Sam and I did, and then move them quick. Because it is that demonstration of speed and seeing is believing, and then execution actually starts to scale up quick. That's really, really important. Now, this advisory bit is important because if you don't plan, you don't know where you're going, and any road will do. So you do need a plan. So you need to understand and analyze the applications, but get the easy ones started, learn from those, learn that the future standards work, and in parallel, advise and figure out and fix the issues as you go. So very much drive to those targets. So just recapping on that then, as Steve said, we're looking at the managed container as a service and looking at the factory fabric and how that accelerates value. And as Sam did in the introduction, then this is a solution. It actually really comes down to that very first slide showing the garage sale that Sam had, of everyone's got stuff that they probably didn't want to have bought or wish they hadn't bought, but they've got, so they've got to deliver value from it. But taking that view of multiple strategies, we've got 18, but that just to help focus, and that Unix to Linux apps migration, delivering that simplicity and speed on a modern platform that brings and drives innovation.